Welcome. Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Great to be back with you this Thursday evening. Don't forget proamericareport.com, proamericareport.com to check out all of what we're doing. And most importantly, sign up for the daily email, My Wink, What You Need to Know, which goes to your email boxes at 5 a.m. Pacific time, 5 a.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. East Coast time. Hey, we got a couple things to talk about, and the overlay here is what you need to know, which we have talked about this for a long time. The overlay here is that the American people are being disserved by the fake news media. And what I mean by that is we're just having a failure to cover what's actually happening in our lives, and therefore we're not understanding what's going on. We're missing it. And because we're missing it, we think some things are the problem and we think other things are the problem, and we're missing the problems. So let me give you a couple of examples. Did you know that the time that they started tearing down Christopher Columbus statues, which did not start last month in Baltimore, although it did happen, in other cities it did happen, it started in the 1920s. And when that was anti-Catholic KKK, the KKK equally, well, I don't know if equally, they hated Catholics, they hated African Americans, they hated Jews. KKK started and dominated by Democrats. For many, many decades, Democrats served in the U.S. Senate who had been members of the KKK, but there you have it. And here's what we know. If you're a Catholic, you know and recognize that anti-Catholic bigotry is acceptable in this country. Now, we don't spend a lot of time, I'm Catholic, of course, we don't spend a lot of time talking about it and worrying too much about it. We just go about our lives. But think about what you've seen. In the last month, we had Columbus statues torn down. In the last month, we had St. Junipero Serra statues torn down in California. You also had about 6 months ago, Senator Feinstein of California look a Catholic nominee in the eye and say, the dogma runs strong in you, meaning that your Catholic faith is something that's motivating for you. And her attack, Dianne Feinstein's, was denounced by the head of the president of Notre Dame, Father Jenkins, the head of the Anti-Defamation League, the head of Princeton University, the Harvard Law Review. Others denounced it, but you know who didn't denounce it? Catholics like Dick Durbin, Catholics like Joe Biden, other senators like Cory Booker and Chuck Schumer. They all said it was fine. And here's the point. Here's what I would say is, what is the reality of living in a country where we're not seeing that? We're not seeing coverage of that. So that's an example. I'm not saying it should be the only story. It's not the only thing you'd see out there, but I'm saying it's one. Here's another example. Right now in this country, did you know? I didn't know this. Portland, Oregon has had 56 straight days of protests that turn into riots. I didn't know it was that long. Did you know it was that long? Until the president talked about it the other day, it wasn't something I knew about. Why? Because the media wasn't showing us the pictures. Because the media knows it's a disaster for one of the two parties. And it's not the Republican Party. It's a disaster for the Democrats because those cities are run by Democrats. So Portland has been burning and we don't even know. The fact is that we are being conditioned by the media in a direction, and we're missing what's happening. And the fake news is failing all of us. Now, let me tell you what the fake news is failing us and setting us up for disaster. Are you ready? This is disaster. We talked about it earlier in the week, but the fake news is now setting us up for a disaster in this country when schools try to reopen in 6 weeks. Over and over now, the media is covering the outbreak of the virus and saying how difficult it could be, might be, will be, whatever. And we have teachers' unions in Los Angeles. They've said they will not show up to work unless there's Medicare for all and a whole nother list of demands. Fairfax, Virginia, the teachers' union rolled back the recommendation that there be in-school teaching. So we have schools, and my point here is the media is not covering what is a tsunami of social upheaval. The social upheaval that will occur in 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 weeks when the nation doesn't go back to school and when lots of people are worried about their kids in ways they haven't been in the past. Because even if you had to have distance learning the last 2 months of the school year, most people in America thought, well, it's temporary. And now we're faced with a permanent change in how kids, you're seeing people pull their kids out of school. Other people are mad about it. You're seeing teachers upset about it. My point here is while we have the hysterical news media covering other subjects, we're missing what is actually in front of us. And as I've said before, it doesn't matter if the reason that you think that you can't go back to school is wrong. And I tend to think they are. I tend to think that we ought to be able to figure out how to go back to school, do some social distancing, figure out how to manage things. But the idea of shutting down all the schools again for the school year and for the first 6 months, it's going to last a whole year. It's a disaster. And nobody's covering it. Instead, they're covering all sorts of conversations. They're covering all sorts of things. They want to talk about Trump this, Trump that. The simple fact of life is we are coming towards an engineered crisis. And it's been stoked by the fake news that is refusing to address the issue. If I told you that you had a multi-billion-dollar school district, multi-billion-dollar schools, let's say that, they're going to get another $100 billion out of one of these stimulus bills, and the schools can't figure out how to make this work, this is nonsense. This is nonsense. It's nonsensical. It's not. I know that school teachers, and I tell you this, I say this over and over again. The late Phyllis Schlafly taught me this. School teachers deserve our thanks. School teachers deserve credit. School teachers they're doing some of the heaviest lifting. But there's school teachers unions and the school administrators and the bureaucracies that have built up and the programs that have been the social justice programming that's happened. That's a discredit. And that is what's being used against we the people right now. And I'm raising this again and again. I did an interview today. You may have seen my Breitbart.com column yesterday. I did an interview today with an NBC reporter, someone I've known for years, and she called and she wanted to talk about the president's growing strength in terms of the crime and addressing the urban cities. And I said, that's all good. I think he had to. I think the president could only allow the lawlessness to continue for a certain amount of time. Then he had to say what he said, which is, if you can't get your cities under control, we will. And he's doing it. And I think most Americans appreciate that and are directionally, they think, yeah, you can't let them keep burning our cities. But I said to her at the end of the discussion, that's not the issue that's going to be first on our minds in just 5 weeks. The issue that's going to be first on our minds is the impact on the economy, the impact on the family, the impact on our students, the impact on our way of life. We're coming into what is an extraordinarily challenging set of moments. And I'm not seeing coverage of it yet. Maybe they'll jump on it soon. Maybe they will. But again, I could tell you, it's going to pit a different reporter. Maybe I won't tell him. I'll cover his name for his identity. Different reporter for a major national periodical, newspaper online too, said to me he's divorced, and he said his wife, wanted to put their child into a private school, and he said I don't want her to go into a private school, and his ex-wife said, well, we have till Friday. If we tell them we're going to then she can go to school. And where they live, there's no in-person school. And again, my point here is public versus private, rich versus poor, living in the right place or wrong place, not having to work or working from home, all these kinds of things. You want to see upset people? You watch what happens in 5 weeks. And here's my point. The billions and what you need to know, the billions and billions of dollars we spend on education, I want to be clear. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying they need to wrap their hands around it and get it done. There cannot be excuses. It has to be done, and it has to get done in whatever ways they can. And it can't be only distance. And let me say the last thing about that. The distance learning, it's not sufficient. It's not good. It's really not. Nobody thinks it is. You can't take a 9-year-old and put him in front of a TV, in front of a screen for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. The teachers aren't good at it. I'm not complaining that no one should be good at that. It's hard to do. But I'm just telling you right now, what's coming down the pike is an unbelievable set of challenges, and we're not even hearing about it. You're hearing about it from me twice this week. But you're not hearing about it from the powers that be and from the media, which is brainwashing us to think about the things that we shouldn't be thinking about and things that they want us to talk about. The NBA is going to open, and we're going to have 17 hours and 5,000 columns on the fact that Black Lives Matter is written on the NBA court in their little bubble in Florida where they're playing and making millions of dollars. Give me a break. Give me a break. You're fiddling while Rome burns, and it's going to get hot in the next 5 weeks. All right, that's what you need to know. Hey, we're going to come back from the break. We'll talk with Julie Kelly, our old friend. We'll get an update on her book on the Never Trumpers. It's called Disloyal Opposition. If you don't have it, you need to get a copy of it. And a new guest, Amy Swear. Amy Swear, I realized she's been on before. She's going to break down the Little Sisters of the Poor case, which the Supreme Court handled this year. Give us a sense of what that all means so that we're on top of that. So we'll take a quick break and be right back. It's Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Be back in a moment.